Rarely ever have we ever seen a TWID that's got such a negative reception as the one that we had this week. DMG has responded to a little bit of the feedback, at least acknowledging that it exists right here. DMG says he has no regrets, keep the feedback coming, and that they've been reading through responses across various places since the article was posted, and the team is collecting a ton of that feedback to discuss internally. Lots to chew through, and I think that is safe to say. If you're curious about the TWID in question, of course it announced some reward nerfs for particular portal activities. Solo ops is being nerfed. They're also dropping the amount of rewards we earn in certain pinnacle ops, which is pretty wild given that a lot of that stuff really ends up being deleted for cause because players want the higher tier rewards in general. DMG said, TWID is live, ask questions, tell us what you like, and give feedback. Well, the feedback has not been very positive. Mactic said, in the most respectful way possible, I think the community is feeling very unheard with the portal changes. This is actually a great way to summarize the way that the community feels at the minute. As far as I can tell, it seems the grind, which was already feeling a bit too lengthy for most, is becoming slower for solo players and remaining mostly the same for everyone else, who now has to go into other obs just to match the current pace. I think I speak a lot when I say that instead of a nerf to power gains from solo ops, we would have instead preferred to have buffs to power gains from Fireteam and Pinnacle ops. Furthermore, it feels like the current main issue, lack of incentive for activity variety, is not being addressed, creating a world where, now, instead of grinding the fastest solo ops 100 times, players will opt to simply grind the fastest Fireteam or Pinnacle ops 100 times. I feel it'd be really good to see a system that rewards players more for doing everything so that folks don't feel the need to choose between optimization and variety. The most frustrating thing about Portal, plus the power grind, is that it felt like we were 2 or 3 steps away from having a borderline perfect system that would only get better with time, and it's deflating to feel like this TWAB instead took 2 or 3 steps back, and I think that is a pretty fair assessment. Not to mention the fact that Bungie had said they were going to be increasing the speed of the power climb a couple of weeks back, but then with the TWID this week, they don't comment on it and simply go ahead and announce a bunch of nerfs which, on paper at least, look like they're going to slow power progression down. Maybe Bungie just forgot the part where they said they were going to speed up the power climb. Also, I'd like to say, on the subject of getting to 450 power or 550 power and that really slow kind of prime grind, actually it doesn't really seem like it's worth doing whatsoever on the most part. At the minute, getting to 450 doesn't actually improve the tier of rewards. You know, if you're after Bushido stuff or any of the TechSec stuff, most of the stuff inside of the portal, the reward tier drops will stay the same between 400 and 450. There's no big change there. It seems to mainly affect PvP. And it looks like as we head into Ash and Iron, actually, it's going to be a pretty similar situation because Bungie have said at 500 power, we'll be able to start effectively earning tier 5 from basically everything. Which again throws into question that 5 to 550 climb, because it doesn't seem to provide a lot of benefit, maybe outside of the fact that, you know, at 510, much like 410 at the minute, you can do the last available conquest, right? In a way, I'm actually happy about that because I can just ignore that stupid prime climb. More commentary on the mixed kind of messaging from Bungie though. Please give us some insight into some of these decisions. You said that power progression is too slow and that it needed improvement, but now you're nerfing solo ops because it's too efficient, and instead, bring more rewards to Fireteam ops. Is the power climb going to be that much more accessible, or is it still going to be a miserable climb? Doubling down on the featured list hurts as well. That's in reference to the raid, epic raid contest thing that Bungie are doing. I don't mind featured rewards, you know, having extra benefits to some extent, but I do not like the new gear concept. I really think that needs to go when we get to Renegades, because that'll be the next big kind of element that players don't enjoy, right? We get to Renegades and then all of our tier 5 builds, all the stuff we're working on right now, essentially becomes useless. I hope Bungie realise that that's not going to go down well soon. Paul Tassi said, why nerfs? Where we need buffs. And I totally agree on that. Like I said, maybe Bungie just forgot to talk about increasing the speed of the power climb. Clyde said, delete this TWID, please, and thank you. Defizzle added, tons of the changes we have come into the portal need to be the exact opposite of what they're going to be. I see that it's understood a problem is present, but the approach to handling those problems just seem very wrong in a lot of ways. Again, I very much agree with that. Matt Goes Buck says, this is very out of touch and it's hard to know where to start. FPS Crystal said, April Fools isn't for another 7 months. What are you guys doing over there? If anything, when I actually read the TWID initially, I remember saying I'm going to need some time to kind of read through this again and let some of it sink in. I think that's because internally in my head, there was part of me that assumed something had to be missing. I had to be interpreting something in the wrong way, because how could Bungie possibly think that the suggested changes were actually going to be largely positive, right? Credit where it is due, some of the updates, to like fire team ops having better rewards and less ridiculous timers, those are good, but it always seems like Bungie throw in a handful of good things and then a bag full of really weird changes that just don't seem to make any sense. And if Bungie are going to continue to say, please give us feedback and that we're listening, then they actually need to start listening and demonstrate that we're not in a situation where Bungie are always correct and players of the game are essentially always wrong. Just look at a bunch of the replies that we're actually getting here on X. I don't think I've ever seen such unanimous response from the community. Almost everybody is criticizing a lot of the things that Bungie put into that TWID. So at this point, I would say to Bungie, this is one of the final opportunities that I think really exists for you to take significant notice of what the community is saying and make changes quickly. We cannot wait until Renegades for Bungie to actually issue a meaningful response in terms of the power climb and all of that kind of stuff. Bungie, please don't keep going in this direction where you ignore all of the feedback, which, like we've said, there is now definitely a consensus in the community. Almost every content creator, almost every type of player, on every platform, nobody is defending Bungie at this point, and it's just mind-boggling that at that precise moment, Bungie choose to ignore a statement they made a couple of weeks ago about the power climb, and instead go ahead and make it more difficult than it is right now. There are so many things that need to be addressed, and Bungie kind of seem to be in a different room to everyone who's actually playing the game right now. That's all I can really say about it. If you've been on the power climb and you're around 400 right now, we're on kind of the final stretch actually, because when we get to 500, without needing primes in Ash and Iron, we're going to earn tier 5s from almost everything according to what Bungie have said. So in a way, things are going to get better, but obviously there are loads of other things going on that need to be addressed, and I can't even say anything else, can I? That's about it. I'm just barking into the void. Give me your thoughts down below. Hopefully, Bungie will turn this around very, very quickly. I sincerely hope that that is the case, so I'll keep you posted when we get further details. For the moment though, thanks for tuning in, and I hope you guys have an awesome day.